Hey, good morning, everybody. So I just thought I'd do a quick trade recap. I took one and I am done on a Friday. So a couple things. We were between levels with SPY. We were in the middle of the gap fill with QQQ. So we're not at a level. So there was one opportunity to take the breakout as soon as we held 594.43 on bullish momentum, right? So what is happening right here is volume is increasing. So we had a little bit of a drawdown and then volume started to increase to the upside, right? And then it broke above the level, went up and came down. Now, my trade was catching the pullback right here on QQQ. Why did I take it in the middle of the gap? So here's why. I was watching the futures market, and when you're watching futures with ES and NQ, we are clearly in overall supply, right? So there was an opportunity for this to break, but I had a notion that it wasn't going to break for one simple premise. Let's go back to NVIDIA. So here's my trend line on NVIDIA that was in the weekly watch list from last weekend. Also, here was my level of support and resistance, 144.50, essentially. And let's look at this, how it is held, rejected, held, right? So I was watching this, and literally on this trend down where we were making a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, pushing up to the trend line, my premise was that we were going to fail this. And as soon as we failed this at 648, let's go and take a look at what happened on NQ at 648. We backed off and then we flushed all the way down to VWAP. So this is when I jumped into puts, but I wasn't watching the futures. I was watching NVIDIA. Why was I watching NVIDIA? Just because it's had so much influence over the market thus far for 2024. Now, what is it doing? So we're going to have a break of structure here, possibly where this thing is going to head lower. And if it heads lower, what is it going to do with QQQ? There it goes. There's the break. Let's see if it holds. And it flushes lower, starting to push down maybe to this 140, 180 would be my next target. Let's look at what are the Qs doing. The Qs are starting to show weakness, right? So you had a push up. We are holding now here the EMA. There goes the flush lower. We are on the trend line support. What is NVIDIA doing? Heading lower. So this is how I use Confluence trading, right? I am watching the futures. I am watching Qs and SPY, but I'm watching the market domineering stock that is going to have an influence over technology. So a great trade would have been actually just to short NVIDIA. The challenge here is the premiums can be quite expensive, as you know. So therefore, I took the Qs. My guess is if we flush this 594.52, which has been acting as support, it was resistance, becomes support, we head lower, then I think we're definitely going to move down and trend into the negative. So that's just kind of psychologically how I was managing the trade. Let's flip back to NVIDIA. What is it doing? More weakness, more weakness. Look at it go. Oh my gosh, that would have been a great short, guys. So this is why we watch multiple things. What are the Qs doing? Pushing all the way down to the bottom of the gap fill. And am I going to jump in a trade now? Absolutely not, right? So your opportunity was here after the break of structure that we talk about in the Discord on a reoccurring basis to then have an indicator that the Qs are going to drop. So quick trade. Hopefully that makes sense to each and every one of you, but trade the levels, right? When you're in between levels, you can look for the overall supply and demand. Now, what are we doing on NQ? We are getting into demand, right? That's why you probably got the pop in SPY, which is also off the bottom of the gap fill. Looks like we're failing this level. I'm just going to give it a minute with you this morning. See if this holds or this pushes down. So now what would I want to watch? Well, I'd kind of want to watch the pre-market high. So the pre-market high was right about here at 593.96. Looks like that's pretty much right where we touched, right? Which is also where we bounced this morning. right here before we headed higher. Now they're bouncing it. Let's see if we fail the pre-market. See if we come out of the gap fill on weakness. And then I would have a longer term target back down to that 500 level, which is where we keep revisiting over and over again. Now that's a long way off, but that's just kind of how I use Confluence trading, and just have a lot of patience, right? We're not going to chase this, even though for many of you it would be super enticing, right? There's the pre-market high on SPY. See if it holds. Getting a bounce off of it. Now, would I go long here? No, not yet. Let's see what NVIDIA's doing. NVIDIA's making a small recovery, but we need NVIDIA to get back up above its overall resistance line right here before I would really want to trade into the Qs to think we're going to go up. What are we doing here? We are bouncing off of demand. We're bouncing off of demand in NQ, but we are not bouncing off of demand in SPY. So I think, again, this takes patience, and you do not want to chase the trade. So your trades were up here, and then you could have taken a bounce right here, but based upon the sell-off in NVIDIA, I wouldn't trust it. So hopefully this helps, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend as NVIDIA starts to head lower. Take care, everybody.